Hello friends! So we still don't really know what Xbox's next-gen console actually is, but somehow we already know it might have some big problems. After all those big commitments from Asha Sharma about the next Xbox being able to play both PC and Xbox games, she is now saying there is one pretty big issue hanging over the whole thing: memory costs. And according to her recent interview with GameFile, this could affect basically everything: the price, the amount of consoles available, and even the launch timing, which is probably why Xbox still isn't giving us any actual timelines yet. Of course, the current hardware market is changing constantly, and Microsoft seems to be taking the let's not promise anything too early approach. She also said while there are a lot of things that they cannot control, they're trying to focus on the things that they can, which is building a good device that plays great games. And apparently development kits are supposed to start shipping next year, so at least Project Helix is at least somewhat moving forward. But it is kind of ironic that Sharma used to lead AI at Microsoft, and now AI-caused memory shortages are one of the things making problems here. But hey, at least they're trying to manage expectations early instead of overhyping the thing. Because let's be honest, if memory costs are already being talked about this much, this console is probably going to be expensive. Like really expensive, and maybe not easy to find at launch either. The bigger question remains though, what even is this thing? Is it a normal console? Is it more like a Steam machine? Is it a handheld like the Xbox Ally? Can it actually run modern AAA games properly? And most importantly, why would people care more about this instead of a gaming PC or a regular console, for example? Right now though, we don't have any of those answers, unfortunately. And so far, it sounds like Project Helix might be less of a simple Series XS successor and more of a premium device that could come with a very premium price tag. Another Assassin's Creed game might be getting caught up in Ubisoft's internal chaos. This time it's Assassin's Creed Hexe, and there are two big things going on here. First, according to Insider Gaming, the game director of Assassin's Creed Hexe is no longer at Ubisoft, and has apparently left to join smaller indie studio called Servo Games. Second, a different report claims Ubisoft moved around 50 developers off the project. And yeah, that sounds a little worrying, especially because Hexe is still reportedly targeting a June 2027 release window. Now, Ubisoft hasn't confirmed any of this, so we should treat it with a grain of salt. But from the outside, it looks like either the game is in such a good shape that Ubisoft doesn't need as many people on it anymore, or a more likely scenario, the company is shifting priorities again. And for anyone who forgot, Hexe was announced back in 2022 as a separate mainline Assassin's Creed game, alongside Red, which we know now as Assassin's Creed Shadows. And the whole idea with Hexe is that it was supposed to be different. Not just another big RPG-style Assassin's Creed, but something darker, stranger, and hopefully fresher. But a lot has changed since then, and we all know how much big publishers love experimenting these days. So I really wouldn't be shocked if some of those staff changes are connected to Ubisoft pulling back on whatever made Hexe different in the first place. Now, maybe this is about Ubisoft trimming the scope so the team can focus on quality. Which would be a very optimistic read on the situation. But with Ubisoft's recent track record, I'm not exactly convinced. The weird thing is, Hexe is still a mystery. We barely know anything about it. So losing the game director and moving dozens of people off the project this close to a possible release window does not exactly inspire confidence. Maybe everything is fine, but if Ubisoft does not prioritize quality early enough, this could seriously hurt the project. And now we finally have a release date for the Blood of the Dawnwalker. The game is coming on September 3rd, 2026. And honestly, this one is extremely interesting because Rebel Wolves was founded by former CD Projekt Red developers, so naturally a lot of people are watching it very closely, myself included. The studio, along with the publisher, recently released a big road to launch deep dive, and they showed off quite a bit. They showed gameplay, system requirements, open world details, inspirations, and a whole lot more. And for a quick refresher, the game is set in the 14th century Europe. There is war, there is Black Plague, and then there are vampires who decide this is the perfect moment to step out of the shadows and claim power. You play as Cohen, a young man who becomes a Dawnwalker, and the big choice seems to be whether you fight to hold on to your humanity or embrace your cursed powers to save your family. And based on what I've seen so far, you can just feel the Witcher DNA here. The dark fantasy setting, the tone, the world building, all of it gives off the same kind of energy. And honestly, I think that's the game's biggest advantage right now. I don't think most people are excited because the gameplay looks wildly unique. We've seen a lot of games like this before. And I don't even think it's purely because of the story. I think people are interested because, at least so far, this project feels like something made by people who understand why The Witcher 3 worked. But then again, this is a brand new IP from a new developer, and the trust only goes so far, even with their reputation. The game still has to launch well, but every time I see it, I half expect a Leshen or a Griffin to jump out from behind a tree somewhere. And the fact that studio has Bandai Namco backing it definitely helps. That gives them a much better shot than a lot of new studios usually get. So yeah, this could be a start of something really good. I just hope that Rebel Wolf Studio actually delivers. For quite a while now there have been rumors about a standalone Venom game, but recently things got a little messy. According to an interview that resurfaced through Insider Gaming, an actor who voiced Miles Morales said Insomniac had planned two big things for Venom, DLC and a full game. But according to him, after Tony Todd, the voice of Venom, passed away, Insomniac allegedly scrapped those plans. Shortly after that, people started discussing whether that was actually true, and Jason Schreier from Bloomberg stepped in and said no, the game is still happening, which was then verified by a developer who said that the project was discussed at GDC 2026. So right now this is basically a rumor versus rumor kind of situation. Insomniac hasn't officially announced the game, and they also haven't cancelled it, as it's quite hard to cancel something that publicly does not exist yet. But personally, I lean toward the Venom game still being alive. Tony Todd's passing is obviously tragic, but studios have continued projects after losing major actors before. It may need rewrites, recasting and/or delays, but I really don't see Sony throwing away Venom. This is a huge character tied to a massive franchise, and there is just too much value there. If anything, I think they should do this game as a kind of tribute of gratitude for Todd and his amazing performances in both games and movies. But for now, Insomniac doesn't really need to say anything. They're obviously still busy with Wolverine, and until that game is out or closer to release, they probably won't talk much about what comes next. Maybe Venom gets tied into Wolverine somehow, or maybe it stays as its own solo project. Whatever the case, I'm still optimistic. I think the Venom game will happen eventually. It just might take a little while. Also, quick thing, if you don't know who I am, my name is Alex, I'm a game producer and I'm here to help you get caught up on everything that's going on in the video game industry. Ever since Mass Effect Andromeda, BioWare just hasn't really felt like the same studio, and now one of the actors from the game is putting a lot of the blame on the publisher. In a recent interview with IGN, Tom Taylorson, who played Scott Ryder, said Andromeda was basically done dirty by EA. Specifically, the actor mentioned the absurdly high expectations from the publisher, the fact that the game was basically pushed out in an unpolished state with numerous bugs, and the use of a shiny new Frostbite engine that was heavily pushed inside the company even though the team didn't really know how to work with it. Among other things, all of this turned this game into a punching bag for people online, who, according to the actor, in an attempt to hype the views and the clicks, didn't hesitate to keep kicking it even after it was already down. Now, I know, it's been almost 10 years, but as someone who really cares about Mass Effect, I'm always interested when people connected to the game talked about what actually happened. And honestly, a lot of what Taylorson said sounds believable, and I hope EA learned a valuable lesson here. Because Mass Effect isn't FIFA, it isn't Madden, it isn't some yearly content pipeline where you can just keep pushing things out and expect people to show up even if it's a buggy mess. Games like Mass Effect live or die on quality, specifically when it comes to narrative, gameplay and technical side of things. Unfortunately, Andromeda didn't fully deliver on any of those. And to be honest, Dragon Age The Veilguard also didn't exactly restore everyone's confidence either. And to be clear, none of it means that people don't want more Mass Effect or Dragon Age. They absolutely 100% do. But now EA and BioWare need to prove they can be trusted again. Because if the next Mass Effect repeats the same mistakes, then what are we even doing? At that point, they might as well put BioWare on ice instead of dragging fans through the same cycle again. So I guess we'll find out whether they actually learned anything when Mass Effect 5 finally arrives. And last but not least, unfortunately, there are more bad news about layoffs and studio closures. This time it's about Spiders, the studio behind Greedfall. A little while ago we talked about Nacon filing for insolvency, but now it looks like the situation might be even worse. According to a recent report from Origami, Spiders, which is one of Nacon's subsidiaries, is reportedly moving toward liquidation and could announce it very soon. The report says the studio is wrapping up transition activities, employees are updating their CVs, and people are reflecting on the studio's 18-year-old history before a judge ruling potentially brings it all to an end. Apparently, after Nacon's insolvency filing, they tried to sell Spiders, but despite the studio's experience and the solid AA games they've made over the years, nobody seems to have bought it. And that's genuinely sad, I must say, because Spiders didn't make bad games. Greedfall, for example, sold over 2 million copies and even got a sequel greenlit. But the problem is, their games weren't massive AAA blockbusters. And they weren't instant cult classics either. They were just solid AA games in a market that feels increasingly brutal toward anything that does not explode immediately. And that's the scary part. If even decent studios with proven games and millions of copies sold can end up in this situation, then AA development is in a really rough place. Because right now it feels like every game either has to become a giant hit right away or it gets treated like a failure. And that's not healthy for the industry at all. So yeah, I guess let's press F for Spiders. And that's all I have for you guys today. Let me know if you're looking forward to Project Helix, what are your thoughts on the next Assassin's Creed, and if you are as excited about the Blood of the Dawnwalker getting a release date as I am. As usual, if you want to know more, all links are down below. And of course, clicking the like button helps this channel a lot and I personally highly appreciate it. Thank you for making it this far, and with that, Alex is signing off for today. Cheers!